In my family, we're almost always in a hurry, which often makes us late to important events, such as this one. Apparently, Google Maps doesn't build in enough time for your mom to find her phone and keys. As I'm sure you can imagine, that always takes a while, as those keys always seem to be hiding in the most improbable of places. Now, I don't know about you, but my mom almost always finds them in her purse. And then, of course, most of my family members get lost in the trip from the house to the car. As I'm sure you can tell, I'm the organized one of the bunch. I'm the focused one, which means that I always spend 15 minutes in the car waiting for everybody. Whenever this happens, I patiently, or sometimes not so patiently, think about how we could have left on time had everyone been devoted to getting ready. But of course, that's impossible, because in my family, we're always trying to squeeze in too much. We're always trying to get too many things done in too little time. So why can't we simply set those things aside and prepare ourselves to leave? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the guilt we feel, the guilt you feel at taking a break, overpowers our every instinct and makes us feel like we're obligated to work down that never-ending to-do list. We live in a rat race world where taking a time out seems like the hardest thing to do. How are kids supposed to take their dog for a walk when they've got 3 tests in the next 2 days that they still have to study for? How's a dad supposed to manage going for a quick jog when he's got about 1,000 emails to answer? How's an elderly woman who takes nonstop care after her ailing husband supposed to take a moment to tend to her roses? It seems as if we don't have a choice. We must keep going until we drive ourselves into a grave, rather than taking a time out every once in a while. We've become so accustomed to this way of life that we've fooled ourselves into believing that it's the only way. I'm standing here and telling you it's not. Time out. I know, it seems impossible. How is pausing for half an hour supposed to help you get more things done? Studies have found that pausing, even just for a moment, even just for a small moment, to relax and reboot is essential for achieving productivity, success, and a positive outlook towards the future. How stopping, even just for 10 minutes, helps your concentration and the quality of your work. A manager would answer his emails in a more strategic and structured way. A high schooler would perform better on tomorrow's test. And a spouse could be more considerate and compassionate towards his or her partner's needs. But taking time out isn't important for our mental well-being. It's vital. After all, where's the meaning in life if we don't, as the old saying goes, stop to smell the roses? Consider this. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death in the world for those aged 15 to 24 years old, overtaking even homicides. A couple of months ago, there was an article in the newspaper about a 13-year-old girl who jumped from the 9th story of a building in Rome. I know, it's not all that surprising. I mean, we hear about stories like this all the time. So often, in fact, that by now, it hardly even affects us. But just stop for a moment and think about that. The girl was 13. She was a year younger than me. She had her whole life ahead of her. But in that moment, she felt so hopeless that she decided that suicide was her only choice. Maybe she was pretty and popular and lived in a nice apartment with loving parents with whom she would eat dinner every night. Maybe she had a best friend who was there for her through thick and thin, or a loving boyfriend who was willing to go to the ends of the earth for her. And yet, that girl was so lost, mentally so unhealthy, that she decided to escape. Maybe she never consciously made the decision to escape. Maybe it was a gut reaction that could have been prevented had she paused to count to 10, paused to call her best friend and rant about what was going on in her life in that moment. Pause, even just for a moment, to reconsider what it would mean when they found her 9 floors down on the pavement. Pause, even just to take a few deep breaths. Pause to find her mom or dad. Or even just pause to close her eyes and envision tomorrow with all of its infinite possibilities. You see, the tragic thing about suicides is that every single one of them could have been prevented had the person stopped to reflect about what they were about to do. What if they had paused? My brother was 17 when he tried. He didn't pause. He didn't even know how. It's kind of crazy, isn't it, how something so simple can have such a powerful effect. It's vital that we, as a society, learn how to pause. Because that pause, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly insignificant, can change the course of your life. My brother's now 21 years old, and he's doing well. He's doing great, actually. He finally learned how to pause. Thank you.